It is 6:30. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you, everyone, for coming. First item on the agenda is review and approval of the minutes from the prior meeting. If anybody has any corrections or additions, if they'd be kind enough to share them. Otherwise, I look for a motion to approve the minutes, please.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Sheldon? Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That handles our minutes. And the only item on the agenda is kind of furthering the conversation on our cannabis zoning ordinance.
Yeah, so last month we had the public hearing for this zoning ordinance, and then there were a few questions from the board that we wanted to have answered before we gave a recommendation to the city council. So just going through a few of those items. Let's see. One question was about whether we could increase the buffer distance for daycare centers, and the answer to that is no, we cannot, because it is set by the Minnesota state statutes. Another question had to do with whether or not we could include the residential commercial district as an option for where cannabis and hemp business uses could be allowed. And so the answer to that is yes, we could do that. And so you'll see that the principal uses table has been updated to include the RC district, and there it's being proposed to allow cannabis retail and lower potency hemp edible retail businesses within that RC district, which is just the same uses as the other commercial zones within Casson as proposed. Also permitted with standards, so no CUPs or anything special like that. Just the same as the other commercial districts. And then let's see, there was also an issue with the map here that shows the buffer distances. You'll see that that has been fixed, so the Dodge County Fairgrounds are no longer identified as a school district. So, any questions about these changes?
I don't have any, no. So I guess where do we go with the conversation from here? I mean, if we approve the zoning ordinance, we move forward with this plan, but if we turn it down, what does that mean exactly? That no cannabis operations are allowed in Casson?
Well, we can't, ban cannabis operations.
Yeah, I understand that.
But,
I think it would mean that we wouldn't have buffer zones.
well,
We need to regulate it.
Sure.
Because the council has already said that they're going to allow them.
Okay,
So this is to regulate where they go and what they can do with them.
sure.
So not passing this is just, we have to pass.
It's just delaying the
something.
inevitable.
Right.
Okay.
We have to pass something so that there is regulation.
Sure.
That we have to follow.
Well, I just look at this and I see the state's guidelines moving forward that we have very little influence over, so I guess all we're doing is recognizing that...
Duplicating what the state's already done, right?
Exactly, and it's not like we really have a choice over the matter.
well, so the zoning districts, I suppose, would be where we have quite a lot of control, because state statutes don't get, so specific as to, your C1 district can only have, these uses allowed versus, your C2 can be this. It doesn't say that specifically. So that's where we have, some give and take of where we can allow those types of things. Let's see, hours of operation, I think, is another thing that we are allowed to change. Let's see, what else? But yeah, the buffers we can't change. The definitions pretty much all come from the state statute.
So, Ian, regarding the zoning,
Yep.
DH is listed as the only place where outdoor cultivation is allowed. Is there any development holding inside the city limits right now?
Yes.
I'm looking at the image here, and I think it's a little out of date. but,
Yeah, so, I mean, there have been rezonings of development holding districts since the last update of the zoning map.
there's a lot of things that are on here that say PUD that probably aren't anymore.
Yeah, so that will have to be updated.
Can you
Like for-
highlight where you know development holdings are at?
Like for
Side limits?
example, let's see. The cemetery land that the city owns, the half of it that is still owned by the city that didn't get sold to Windsor Court, like that's development holding because it wasn't rezoned to the PUD. So like for an example, that could be outdoor cultivation for cannabis. Let's see, what else?
But that's still city property, right?
For the moment?
Right. I mean, it's under a lease agreement, so if we wanted to not allow cannabis on our own land, we could probably sort that out, but just as an example, that's one thing.
Might be something to put in a lease.
Yeah.
Is that the only,
I think, let's see, part of Schudy's property is still, I think, development holding. Golden Kernel is probably also development holding.
Shooties is in the buffer zone though, right?
Yeah, yep, that wouldn't be, although this is just for business, though. These buffers are just for business, not for cultivation.
Oh, so the outdoor cultivation wouldn't be buffered at all?
I don't think so. Let's see.
But it's outdoor cultivation for a business setting in order to, with the intent for sale as a business, right? The difference between the broad term of business versus retail, retail being a specific type of business.
Right, and, in the ordinance proposal, it does say, like, the operation of a cannabis retail business is prohibited within 1,000 feet of a school, or 500 feet of a daycare, or public park, or within 300 feet of another cannabis retail business.
So, yeah, so the outdoor cultivation and development holding, and then everything in I-2, since none of those are retail, those would all be allowed within, next door to a daycare, is what you're saying, or a school?
If they're zoned that way, I just don't know that there are any places that are zoned like that are in the buffer distances.
But you said there's some of the Schudy property is development holding, but that's within the buffer for the school?
Yes.
So that would be an example.
Yeah, so right where his cursor is, if I'm understanding properly, that field could be seeded and they could grow there, right?
Cannabis. Let's see.
Well, the cultivation is still considered a business.
Yeah, but it's not a retail business, if what Ian is saying is correct. Can we scratch the word retail and just say business? Because there's a little bit of purple, I-1, I-2 down there that's in the buffer zone. Where is that at? That's, trying to figure out, so, I guess basically right over here, down the road, whichever way it is, that the buffer zone is covering, but it doesn't matter if they're I-2, right, because I-2 doesn't have any retail. Right, so they could do, according to this, indoor cultivation, wholesale, manufacturing, and more wholesale.
Well, okay, so the
But-
development holding is permitted with standards for cultivation. Cultivation is still considered a business. So they wouldn't have a retail business out there, but they'd still have a business,
Agricultural
an
business.
agricultural business,
Yeah.
which is still permitted with standards. So I'm not,
Yeah, but
confused what the question
if you're reading section, let's see, C1E, it says the operation of a cannabis retail business is prohibited within 1,000 feet of a school and within 500 feet of a daycare. So the word in question here is that it says retail business and not just operation of a cannabis business. Right, so since it says retail, to me, that means in this table, only cannabis retail and lower potency retail are gonna be excluded by the buffer zones, and all the other rows in this table that aren't retail would not have any exclusion. They could go wherever they want, as long as they're in the correct zone, whether that zone is next to a school or not. So then the question is that what we want? Is that okay? Or not? Or can we do anything about it?
Lower potency hemp edible retail would also be exempt from the buffers. It's specifically defined as not a cannabis retail business.
So even though it says retail in the table, it's exempted somewhere else?
Yep, like in the definition of lower potency hemp edible retailer,
Okay,
It
a
says,
business which sells lower potency edibles, but which is not
which
a
is
cannabis
not a
retailer.
cannabis retailer. Yep.
So, in my opinion, I think we should be stricter than that and not allow indoor or outdoor cultivation, anything else in this table, I guess except the lower potency, which is already excluded, within the buffer zones. Unless the state says I can't do that.
So what you're saying is,
Can we,
yeah,
will the state even allow that?
Right, 'cause like,
but theoretically, are you telling me that I can't grow hemp or can't grow cannabis in my garage, 'cause I'm in a buffer zone, and
no, because
sell
you're
it?
not a business.
No, that's what he's saying, is if
Yeah.
he is cultivating it indoors as.
If I'm cultivating it indoors with the intent of selling it to a wholesale operation, I can't do that because I'm in a buffer zone.
I don't think you can do that.
I don't think you
under
can do
state
that either way.
statute.
Oh,
The state's not gonna let you do that either.
Yeah, you can only grow your own for your own
Yeah.
purposes.
We had a brewery in somebody's backyard, so understand, it sounds like
Yeah, I see.
I'm really shooting here out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to have a license, I assume, in order to sell it to anybody regardless. And then these would be zones on top of that would also restrict you. And then I'm saying we should also add the buffer zone on top of that too.
But should the government really be that involved in people's lives? I guess I don't know.
I mean, I'm just thinking, does it really make a difference whether it's retail or not retail? Like, if there's literally a field of weed growing across the street from the Quick Trip and Kitty Corner from the school, is that acceptable when we're saying, they can't have a retail business in the same spot?
I don't follow your statement, forgive me.
The
What does a field of weed have to do with our, did you say weed?
weed.
Weed, okay.
Yeah, weed.
forgive me.
Sorry.
I
A field full
don't
of
think it is grown
cannabis.
outside. I would assume we're looking at a Houston's type of greenhouse type of, I don't know much about the commercial side of cannabis growing, but I guess I would envision more of a Houston's type of setup where they're growing marijuana in the scope of a greenhouse, as opposed to somebody growing it like corn or soybeans here around town. But I know so little about the actual growing aspect.
I would agree with your assumption, but our ordinance is not gonna carry either way, right?
Yeah.
So,
I guess I'm not a big fan, I'm a bigger fan of less government as opposed to more government, but... And if we need to come back and revisit zoning because of some oddball scenario, we do it. There's also the piece of my brain that looks at this, If I wanted to grow marijuana in my backyard, I could do it. You know, I don't, I have no plans to, but it's a plant. I don't see a 12, 13, 15-year-old kid trying to buy cannabis for a retail outlet. I see them probably trying to sneak a plant in somewhere in a field somewhere, or grandma and grandpa's garden, or something along those lines, as opposed to trying to break into a retail establishment or something of that nature, but
All right.
I'm also not very good when it comes to breaking the law.
Ian?
Yep.
Before this gets to city council, can you just look and see whether or not we're allowed to restrict everything and not just retail? I'm not even sure that the state will even allow us to, right?
Sure.
And then, I see that you guys left some comments in here on this, ordinance PDF. So I'm curious to the answer of this comments. How is the measurement for the buffer zone gonna be done? Is it gonna be done based upon the parcel lot lines? 'Cause that's the way it looks like the buffer zone map is presented. Or is it gonna be based upon the physical location of a school building or a playground equipment?
For the park one specifically, that's why on the map it has like those yellow dots. So it's measured from like the actual, like a swing set or a basketball court, not like the actual perimeter of the parcel that the park sits on. But if it's like a school, then it's the actual parcel.
Some of those parks don't have playground equipment, and they have baseball diamonds and,
Yeah, or
Disc
baseball
golf.
diamond.
right, so like, I would think we'd wanna do it the same both ways, like for enforcement reasons. I don't think you need to go and update the buffer map, because this obviously is not, you know, if there's some violation, you're not gonna pull up the map and be like, oh, you're in the line or on the line or something, right? You're gonna go out, I assume with a tape measure or a laser gauge, and you're gonna take some measurements and see, is this property within 1,000 feet or not?
I would probably measure it on our GIS
Sure.
system.
I would say doing the parcel lines makes the most sense. If you're gonna do it for the schools, then it makes sense to do it for the parks. Because there's a lot of potential places in our parks where there's no equipment, but kids are regularly in those locations, like football fields at
Yeah.
Veterans or whatnot, right? So that area should be included when you're measuring buffer zones.
100% with that. I mean, just look at Lions Park right there,
Yeah.
measured from the west side. That leaves that only covers half of it. If we were to,
Yeah, that'll push it out quite a bit.
yeah, but it is technically park
Yeah.
and used space, it's not wooded. I mean, that would be fair, I think, legit, if we were to do
Sure,
that,
Sure.
just to make sure we're covered.
Okay.
So maybe make that clear. The wording in E just says, within 1,000 feet of a school property and with 500 feet of a daycare, residential treatment facility, public park, property, right? Just put the word property in there, or parcel or something to make it a little clear on how it might be enforced if we had a issue with.
Yeah, I can look into that some more.
So you're gonna wanna check too, to make sure that if the state is setting those
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
boundaries from, 1,000 feet or 500 feet or whatever the state set boundary is, what are they saying from a
How
buffer
to count it.
standpoint?
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. Statute, buffers, let's see, if I can find a quick answer. Yeah, 'cause it just says, like, an attraction within a public park that is regularly used by minors, including a playground or athletic field.
Right, so a lot of our parks are, have big
Yeah.
athletic fields, right, so,
Field.
anyway, I guess I'd be in favor of, I guess I'll just make the motion to recommend approval of this, to the council, and then ask Ian to bring a little bit of clarifying information at the time, but, again, there's not much we can do here, right? Our hands are kinda tied.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Are there any more questions or concerns or thoughts? We do have a motion to approve on the table. Do we have a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That would be our recommendation to the city council. Anything else we need to talk about tonight, gentlemen?
Well, I guess I can use this official opportunity to advise you all that Mr. Norrie has applied for an appeal of the city's revocation of his conditional use permit for his fence. So at the next council meeting on the 19th, there's going to be a public hearing, and then after that, the city council can reaffirm their revocation or overturn it or modify it. But
So the council meeting on the 19th will officially be that hearing?
yes, yep.
So forgive me, he wants his conditional use permit reinstated?
Reinstated with the condition of having the neighbor agreements removed.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yep.
Even though he doesn't need a conditional use permit, okay.
Yep.
Understood. Thank you. Anything else? I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.